swooped in and grabbed Paul and carried him out of Dante's Inferno. He deposited him in the back seat of our rental car and locked the doors. Welcome to El Dade. We had come out west to record our second album just a stone's throw from the offices of Casablanca Records. We were thrilled to be out in Hollywood. What was not to like? We were used to an asphalt jungle with towering buildings. Here we saw beautifully landscaped houses where movie stars lived. The weather was nice every day. Oh, and there were girls, an endless array of beautiful girls. We were working with Kenny Kerner and Richie Wise again, and the studio was beautiful and the vibe seemed great, but Gene especially just couldn't deal with the laid back El Dade attitude. If we needed something in the studio fixed, we wanted it fixed immediately. Gene thought everyone in El Dade was a moron. They stayed out in the sun too long, he used to scoff. We were a bunch of hyper New York workaholics who just wanted to capture our sound and then get back on the road. Besides, there were just too many temptations. Temptations for Ace and me in El Dade. I thought we had a bunch of real good songs, but again the sound just wasn't being captured. The session seemed stale. It was the same old with these guys, only in a different room on a different coast. I didn't really push to get any of my songs on the album. I knew they weren't going to do any of them, they just weren't the kind of songs we were doing. But I did push to sing on the record. Paul had written a song, Mainline, that was perfect for me, but recording it was torturous. Paul would literally stand in front of my fucking face, making me sing it word for word and note for note the way he wanted it, which puts a bit of a damper on your creativity. In his best days he couldn't outsing me. He had no soul. Ace had written 2 songs for the album, but he didn't have the confidence to sing either of them. Gene and Paul could be quite intimidating, and Ace told me many times that they made him feel inadequate. But Ace would always push for me to sing his songs so that I could get a little bit of the spotlight. So I sang Strange Ways. I also thought that an extended drum solo was just the thing for that song. Of course, Gene and Paul wouldn't hear that. Why are you guys always right and I'm always wrong? I protested. Why can't I do a solo there? Well, it's pretty obvious that they would mumble. Yeah, but the fans may like it, I said. I was a solo guy. I loved doing them, and Strange Ways was the perfect vehicle for one. So I fought back the only way I knew how. If the solo goes, I quit the band, I threatened. Of course I was crying wolf, I just wanted some input into the process. I recorded a really good solo. But after my drum tracks were done, I never stayed around the studio, so, of course, they just cut the solo out. And I didn't quit. In fact, I was relatively happy. We were staying at the Sunset Marquee, a real rock and roll hotel in West Hollywood. When the recording was done, Paul and I jumped from our second-story balcony into the pool. Even Gene jumped in, wearing his huge monster boots and heavy leather. Ace didn't partake. He was recovering from getting pissed one night and driving around the same block in the Hollywood Hills, faster and faster, until he wrapped his rental car around a telephone pole. I remember sitting up on my balcony at the hotel and playing the tape of Hotter Than Hell over and over. It felt so great to have 2 albums under our belts. And despite our occasional differences, it was still fun to be around each other. We would make each other laugh for hours and hours. We were all such different people, but we were united in one goal. We toured behind the album from October 1974 until February 1975. We were still working on our live show, and sometimes there would be bumps in the road. One of our signature moves then was to have my drumsticks explode. Neil was a big Magic fan and he loved flash paper, so we devised special sticks that were hollow and made out of white copper. We packed the sticks with flash paper and put in an ignite switch so I'd have a nice finale at the end of show, blasting balls of fire out over the audience. Other than the exploding drumsticks, though, we didn't have much firepower at that point in our career. Sean had rigged up a couple of flash pots, but that was about it. Eventually we had enough shit to blow a stadium up. If you stepped in the wrong place on that stage on the wrong night, you were dead. I never trusted that shit. All those pyro guys were nuts. They'd be handling the dynamite and they'd have a lit cigarette dangling out of their mouths. I found it hard enough to control my little drumsticks. Sometimes one would go off and the other wouldn't. Sometimes they'd just peter out and hit the front of the stage. Other times, they'd misfire and go backward. We had a much worse accident a few weeks later. We were in Springfield, Illinois, playing a National Guard armory of all places. Our roadie Moosey, a really nice, big Italian kid, was responsible for loading up my exploding sticks. We were in the dressing room putting on our makeup when all of a sudden we heard a loud boom. What the fuck was that? I said. Suddenly Moosey came running into the room with half of his hand hanging off. There was blood shooting everywhere and there was white, briny stuff leaking out. It looked like a Quentin Tarantino movie. We found out later that unused powder had accumulated in one of the sticks and he was using a screwdriver to scrape it away when it ignited and blew his hand up. I grabbed a towel and wrapped it around his hand. We gotta cancel the show. I have to go to the hospital with Moosey, I said. The rest of the guys talked me out of it. They were right. It was a sold-out show and we couldn't let those fans down. I couldn't wait for the show to end so I could check on Moosey. He underwent emergency surgery and they were able to save his hand, but it never functioned properly again. We paid for his bills and billed through him a few bucks and made him sign a waiver so we couldn't get sued. On that tour we wound up playing in Detroit on my birthday. After the show, they threw me a nice party that seemed to have a drug theme. I got all this drug paraphernalia like Coke spoons and vials and hash pipes. And our great road crew, the renegade bikers, cooked some LSD. Topless brownies that were made with hash and grass. The road crew knew this, Paul and Ace and I knew this, but Gene had no idea. This was a man who had never gotten high once in his life. But he loved sweets. So Gene wolfed down about 6 brownies and left the party with a female rock journalist. Later that night, the phone in my room rang. Peter, this is Gene. I don't know what's happening to me. My hands are shrinking and my face won't fit in the mirror. Gene was freaking out so he called me up. I was the guy who knew all about drugs, right? I had to keep from laughing. Gene, did you eat any of those brownies at the party? Yes, I had about 6 of them, he said. Well, they were dosed with